This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Great to have you in on a Tuesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. We're going to fix things on my end. Been busy here. I blink and it's showtime, baby. Good to have you in. Can find us, can watch us. Do so on Twitter and the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel. It don't cost you nothing. Just subscribe to it. Great post-press conference thoughts. Of course, Aaron Sorensen and the crew, Brady Oltmans, and video for you to enjoy. All sorts of content. The Hail Varsity Twitter handle, as well as your go-to in the Hail Varsity Radio handle, at HVarsity Radio. KFOR, Twitter, and Facebook, also ways to watch us. Elijah, what's shaking? You eased in a little bit of a travel hangover, or no? You ready to go here? We get state tournament time tomorrow, Thursday. We're at Rosie's. Friday, more coverage. Saturday, championship Saturday. Spring football's on the horizon. Husker basketball wants to keep dancing, and they get after it tomorrow night, 8 o'clock in the United Center. So a lot to cover. Good stuff for I'll say this. I think Fred Hoiberg had a little bit of a tone today. And that's okay. I'm not knocking him. I'm not critiquing. I'm not accusing. I just think he had a little bit of a tone today where, and you get that way, where it gets busy, it gets complicated, and let's keep playing. You've built and built to get to this finish line only to keep the relay going, which is your season. Are they in or not with the NIT? Don't know. Net's only one measurement, NET. But right now they're not looking good in those rankings, but everywhere else, folks are like, damn, Nebraska's playing really good basketball, not just recently as of Sunday, but over the month of February. There's talk about, hey, can you win 5 in Chicago? Can you play your way onto the bubble? We'll discuss that in about an hour, a little more than an hour, with Andy Markowski. Mitch Sherman, we're going to get Mitch on video. Ooh. You got to send him a link, but it's pretty awesome. Mitch will join us here in about 20 minutes. Numbers to get in, 489-1240, 489-1240. Also across the state where you hear us, 800-825-5865. We'll take calls and emails. Good stuff yesterday as well. Podcast always available. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play is how you get connected that way. So we'll catch with Mitch here. But a lot to get to. Basketball on my mind. We'll start there. We'll get to some spring football. Really good column from Mitch on what awaits with spring football. The Dylan Raiola saga. And yesterday, you had the reality of Raiola. It feels like a lean, more than a lean, to USC. That's not in ink, but it seems like everywhere he goes, it's fair, but he's caught up in that moment, kind of like Ohio State, right? But the talking that happens on a regular basis with USC and Lincoln Riley and Dylan Raiola is very real. We'll get into the sales pitches that are going on right now with Nebraska v. USC. If you're on the line, stay there. We'll get to your phone call in a minute. But Nebraska basketball, their task is in front of them with this season. Derek Walker, deservedly so, getting named All Big Ten second team by the coaches. The coaches know what they see. We can go round and round, whether you like coaches voting for their buddies or you like, the media if you like us, in our take on who should be first team and second team. But Derek Walker has done it night in, night out, undersized against some of the giants, some of the behemoths in the Big Ten. And he's flat out carried this basketball team, Elijah. He's been incredible. They're a game over 500. That's a miracle. It's an earned miracle, but they're flat out a story of the Big Ten. Coach Collins won the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Fred would have gotten my vote had I had that opportunity.
Well, it's hard to vote against a guy who took Northwestern basketball of all schools to a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. He had a phenomenal year whenever nobody really expected it. Now, nobody really expected Fred to turn around Nebraska after the injuries. But.
Doug Collins was on his way out. He finally had a team stick and stay and gel and perform. He's recruited well. They've had more seasons around 500 or a little below. So they've been a lot like Nebraska. What Fred did with the injuries, no one else is going to win, and no one else is going to be within sniffing distance of 500 in the league. No one else is going to be over 500 based on what you lost and what your identity was as a team. He gets my vote. And I said that 2 weeks ago.
This is something that we brought up 2 weeks ago, yeah, in the same way that I think if you would have polled all the Big Ten coaches and asked who the coach of the year is, I think it would have been a 2-horse race between Collins and Fred Hoiberg.
I think most of the coaching staff...
Hoiberg's probably would have won it if you had polled the coaches. But whenever you poll the media, you can't pick against a Northwestern team that nobody had finishing second in the league this year. The year that Northwestern had, that's what that award is. It's a credit to the Northwestern team as a whole, and yeah, you give credit to the coaching staff, but I don't want to take anything away from Collins. He very much deserves that award.
I'm not knocking him. I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I'm not saying this isn't a special year. Absolutely is. In most years, it's not even a discussion. But from a context standpoint, what Fred did and the rest of the league is going to bow to him because they know how just difficult it is. Imagine one part of your identity going away. Now it's two. Now it's two, and you're relying on Tominaga to be what he's been. You're relying on your son to come off the bench and give you really good minutes. You got Bandamel cheering the guys on, being a leader on the bench. You've got old Wilcher that's been anything but consistent in his career, and he's kind of finding his footing now, at least since the Rutgers game. And Sam Griesel continues to kick butt. And the old stalwart, the old standard, the old go-to, Mr. Consistency's been Derek Walker, which is great. Let's hear from Fred today here as Nebraska gears up to head to the Windy City.
I think it's awesome. We all know how valuable Derek is, and for the coaches to recognize that says a lot. And, we play through Derek. We rely on him for so many things, and it's great to see him get this recognition after all that he's been through in the 4 years since he's been here, and to see him going out on a high note. It's very well-deserved, and all of us in this program are very proud of Derek.
Can't say enough about Walker, his perseverance. And, the guy's been in college 6 years. He's been part of deep tournament runs with Tennessee. And he's continued to persevere. And he's had some frustration. And he detailed that not long ago with, dude, I'm still in college. What am I doing here? What's this team going to be? Can we win? And he's had a great attitude. He's been a mentor. He's been a leader. He's been a great player. And he's been a facilitator. And he's been unselfish. Think about being 25, still in college. You're playing hoops. You want to get yours. You want to go play professionally. You want to go earn some dollars. And what's he do? He does what he's asked first and foremost. He does it great with a facilitator pass, that danger, that run the offense through me, let me handle the ball, let me find my teammates cutting back door for some shots. Let's get a stagnant and inconsistent offense going through me, which highlights his skill set. But if you're a 6'9" power forward, you want to be averaging 20 and 10, right? You want NBA guys to be looking at you, and that's a hard ask right now given his age and his height and his game. His game's great off the dribble. His toughness is wonderful on the block. He doesn't have that 15-foot jumper a la Patrick Ewing about year 9 in his career. to draw defenses up. Not that he can't develop one, but he's not going into pro ball with it. Mm-hmm. But he's done everything, even though it's probably been quite a journey for him.
And the thing you mentioned that I think stands out is that he's 25 years old, and one thing you didn't mention is he actually has a business on the side that he's already started.
He's a trucker, man.
Yeah, he uses NIL money to go buy himself a semi-truck, and he's got a trucking business that he's trying to nurture while he's still at the University of Nebraska. And that speaks to, I think, the character of a guy like Derek Walker, that, you know what, he could have said, I'm ready to be done with my college career. I'm going to throw the towel on this last year. We've had a couple injuries. It doesn't look like it's going our way. You know what? I'm not going to give my full effort to practice. I'm going to look at my career, even if it's outside of basketball, post-college, and just start focusing on that. No, but he locked in even more, became a big leader on this basketball team, and decided, you know what? If I'm going to go out with my basketball career, I'm going to go out the right way. And it's just fully a credit to Derek Walker. I don't think this team is where they are today without Derek Walker. I don't think that's a hot take by any means.
No,
but Derek Walker's impact for this team cannot be understated. As you mentioned, he is the difference of what has led this team. They've got some talent, but without Derek Walker, this team doesn't get above 500 this year. And I don't even think they sniff 500 if Derek Walker's on the floor.
Without Derek Walker, without Sam Griesel, without their blue-collar mentality, their toughness, and the rest of the guys to come along, and don't forget Gary and Bandamel, Nebraska did an incredible job of finding guys from a character and a talent and a buy-in standpoint, even in the portal. We're talking coaching change, we're talking coaching search, and we're talking, man, why didn't it work out for Fred? Look at what Timmy Miles is doing. Why the hell did we get rid of Timmy Miles? I mean, that's the conversation right now because they're 7-20. They're where Minnesota's at. It took the right eye. It took then finding out a different way to win and then doing it again due to injury with Fred and Walker and Griesel. And let's see if Nebraska can build on that. Whatever happens tomorrow night. It'd be very Nebraska to stub their toe against Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Okay? Again, I'm taking Minnesota in the points. I just think this has got to stop sometime. And it's not that I want it to stop. I love what Fred and the gang have done. But there's just this Nebraska basketball curse. Sue me. Sorry. I'm just waiting for something bad to happen with Nebraska basketball. Maybe they'll keep on trucking.
Well,
maybe they'll pull a 94 Pike and just win the whole bleeping thing. Doubtful. But there's still some fun to be had. They got to get by Minnesota, and let's see what shakes out with Maryland.
As you mentioned, there's still fun to be had. I think what's incredible about this season is, if you would have asked me 2 months ago what we'd be talking about with Husker basketball on this day, if we're talking March 7th, 2023, the day before the Big Ten tournament starts, I'd be saying,
well, who are they going to get?
Who are they going to get? Who's the next head coach going to be? So that's full credit to Fred Hoiberg, Derek Walker, Sam Griesel, all those guys that they were able to pull together. And we've mentioned a couple times in the year, but what this Husker basketball team has done this year, it might not be the best Husker basketball team we've ever seen, but I think, at least in my mind, they've become the most lovable because of the way that they fight and the way that they play the game with, their heart on the sleeve. You can tell those guys love to play the game of basketball, and I just love watching this team play. As you mentioned, I hope the magic doesn't stop. Something tells me it will here within the next couple of days. It's a hard task to have to go play every single day of the Big Ten tournament, and your opposition gets greater and greater every single day that you advance. It's a tough place to go win, but I'm just going to try to enjoy this while I can. The fact that we have this team together this year and that I get to love this team, which is not an understatement. This team is very lovable to watch, and I am really excited to see what they can do in the Big Ten tournament. Win, lose, whether it's pretty, whether it's ugly. I'm just glad that we get to watch this team some more.
They are appreciated. Mm-hmm. They aren't driving you nuts. Do you wish they'd shoot better? Yeah. Do you wish the rebounding didn't go the way it did against Iowa? Sure.
You wish they'd stop turning the ball over?
Do you wish yeah, I mean, they're not perfect at all, but damn, they are tough, and they're all right. Last thought here from Fred. We'll talk with Mitch Sherman coming up. What's the approach here in Chicago? You looking big picture or just what's on your plate, and it's absolutely Minnesota tomorrow night?
We're going to have to play the same way. I think that's the biggest thing going into this, and just take it one at a time. We can't look at this monumental task of we got to go out and win 5 games to make the tournament. You just got to go out and win one, and then worry about the next one. And we know we're playing a team that's playing their best basketball this season. Since they came back from the pause, they've had 5 one-possession games, our game included in that. and they won against a very tough Rutgers team, and then had a great chance to beat Wisconsin at home in their last one. So they're playing really good basketball. They're shooting over 40% from three in their last 5, and when they go with that big lineup, that puts a lot of pressure on your defense just with their size. And obviously, you saw what happened to us on the glass in the last game against Iowa. We're going to have to do a much better job if we want to have a chance of winning this game and taking care of the ball. Ball security is going to be very important in this tournament. You can't give teams free baskets and give them a pick six type situation. So taking care of the basketball is important. Finding a way to compete on the defensive glass is going to be as important as anything in this game. But as far as our mindset, we just have to go out, and right now our sole focus is on Minnesota. And if we're fortunate enough to move past, then we'll worry about Maryland. But right now, we're playing a really good team that's playing very good basketball, and we're going to have to go out and continue to do the things that have made us successful and do a better job on some of the things that hurt us in the last game.
He's right on. Focus what's on your plate right now. Matt asks the question, can they make the NIT? I think right now, based on what the NIT is, and they're about making some dollars too, I think Nebraska, if they can finish above 500 in this league, yeah, they're probably a host site. Mitch Sherman's on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency, Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. We welcome in Mitch Sherman from The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. We are doing the video thing with Mitch. Mitch, are you posted up in a Starbucks? Where you at, bud? Did he freeze on us? Did I jinx it?
It was beautiful for a second. I can hear him barely, I think.
Mitch, do we have you, sir? Now we have you.
Got me? Can you hear me?
We got you. We got you loud and clear.
All right. I'm coming to you live from DFW Airport, so I hope that the connection maintains.
Did you take your clubs with you?
This was a work trip, so no, I did not take my clubs, although the golfing weather has been pretty nice. A little humid and overcast today, but I know they would prefer that at Haymarket Park over what they've got right now.
Now, Mitch, I did see you post up on Twitter earlier today. It was a work trip, but I saw you getting some good Texas barbecue a little bit earlier today. So I got to ask the question. You might want to look around and see who's around you before you answer this question, but where is the best barbecue in the United States? Is it Texas?
I think it's Kansas City, but I'm partial to Kansas City, and I've been in Texas for the last 3 days, and you don't get better brisket than you get in Texas. But I like my burn-ins and my ribs, and nobody does that better than Kansas City. The experience has been great, and again, I was here working, but the highlight, one of the highlights of my trip was the food. I got Torchy's tacos, I got Bucky's gas station brisket. And then today I had Rudy's, a whole helping of food from Rudy's, as you can see on my Twitter account.
Mitch, without giving the playbook away, work trip in Texas and Nebraska makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can probably figure out what I was here doing. Visited a number of high schools and spent some time in various places around the state, just kind of seeing with my own eyes what this Matt Rhule connection in the state of Texas is all about, and hearing about the people on his staff, hearing from people who go way back with Matt Rhule from even beyond before his time at Baylor. Interestingly, I talked to some people who knew Matt Rhule and worked and dealt with him when he was the head coach at Temple. Of course, when he got to Texas in late 2016, he went to work very fast at building relationships. And I think we've heard some of this, or in fact, I know we've heard some of this in the 102 days that Matt Rhule has been the coach at Nebraska. But to go into some of the high schools and listen to the people who he's impacted talk about it. I got to visit yesterday with the 3 future Huskers from Martin High School in Arlington, one of whom is the son of Bob Wager, Nebraska's tight end coach, and Gage Wager Not to steal the thunder from the other two who were scholarship players, but Gage was fun to talk to, and we might have another Garrett McGuire on our hands before things get down the road real far with Gage.
Andy Markowski is coming up here in a little bit. Mitch Sherman now. Uncle Andy's, I think, stationed in Texas briefly, and he's giving me text messages if Mitch is eating in Texas, Terry Black's best brisket apparently is where you need to go, beef ribs. Next time you're down there, because clearly you're at the airport now.
But I do want to give a shout out to Torchy's Tacos down in Texas. They recently opened a location in Kansas City. Very, very good. It's like a Tex-Mex fusion. That the chicken strip taco that they have is phenomenal.
Mitch is taking notes.
That was my dinner on Sunday night. Was Torchy's, and any trip to Texas, I look forward to getting to Torchy's. Last time before this was in Colorado, of all places. There's a Torchy's just outside of Boulder. So put that on your calendar for September.
We have. Mitch, takeaways with Coach Rhule yesterday and his presser. I mean, to me, it was well thought out, and his chance to put his plan in action with some guys on this football team that really did well working with peers and then moving it forward. Not only buy-in, but also kind of the method to the madness, why they're doing all these different things beyond just training and getting in shape or keeping in shape for spring football. What grabbed you about Rhule and just what's gone on under winter conditioning?
Well, I watched from afar, and I was impressed. It was good to hear from Thomas Fidone. It was good to hear from Chief Borders. So, for different reasons on both of them. With Borders, it's the first time that as an entire state and group of media that we've been able to sorry, I'm getting asked to talk more quietly. With Borders, it's about
for walking and talking
us
here with
getting
Mitch.
to see him for the first time. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do here, guys, but I'll tell him I'm live on the radio. But and with Fidone, obviously we know him well, so I was impressed with one of the things that Chief Borders said when he told everybody that Matt Rhule has a plan and we're buying it. I thought that kind of summarized really everything that Matt Rhule said. We got to hear about his thoughts on the winter and, what went into designing that program that the Nebraska players went through, the mat drills and everything that they've done, and, how they've emphasized community service and going to sporting events that other Nebraska athletes are involved in. We know about Chief Borders now being a TikTok star and learning to pole vault. So it was all interesting for a number of reasons that went beyond football practice. And then in 2 weeks, we get down to that.
Mitch, one of the big things that I was listening to yesterday actually wasn't from Matt Rhule. It was from Thomas Fidone. We hit on this a little bit during the show yesterday, but that comment about the fact that there were some competing interests last year with him getting back on the field. He wasn't cleared by the medical staff, but he had coaches on the sideline asking him why he couldn't play. And I think that was a big kind of look behind the curtains of what last season looked like with just instability within the program. And I just thought that answer was super interesting, and the reporters on site thought so as well. I want to get your reaction to what Thomas Fidone said about, there was competing interest. The coaches wanted me to play, but the medical staff didn't want me to play.
Yeah, I think it shed some light on just the amount of stress, and, it was a difficult situation last year, and there were coaches whose jobs were on the line. And, obviously you're never going to put a player out there who's not been cleared medically by the doctors and the surgeons to be able to play. And it wasn't just that Thomas Fidone was coming off of one knee surgery. He was coming off of knee surgery for a second consecutive year as a result of a repeat ACL injury. And, we heard Matt Rhule talk about how it's his job to make sure that players avoid repeat injuries. And one of the ways that you avoid repeat injuries, as Rhule laid it out, is you don't bring players back too soon. So I thought that was maybe the most interesting part, that on this day that we heard Thomas Fidone talk about how there were coaches, and we don't know who it was. It might have been a GA or a quality control guy, or somebody who was 21 years old. He didn't get into details. I mean, certainly I'm not going to read into that and say it was the offensive coordinator or the head coach who was yelling at him to get out there on the field. I think that there's a risk of maybe running with that a little too much, and thinking that Nebraska coaches were mistreating players, and I didn't get that necessarily from what Thomas Fidone said. Now if more details came out and we found out that it was a trend and they were trying to rush injured players back and that was leading to additional injuries, then okay, that's something I think you could really dig into and be critical of that staff about. But that was what he said yesterday was really nowhere near that deep. To me, it just, again, speaks to the urgency and the stress that existed within the team structure last year and how difficult that was for everyone.
Mitch Sherman from DFW, he is flying back. Mitch with The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, we'll wrap with this, and thanks for squeezing us in, and tell the guy that you're being too loud for. You are important, damn it, and you're busy. But you're very polite. I know you are. The Dylan Raiola USC wins. So let's go there for a moment. Do you believe that SC has some more momentum right now after last weekend?
Well, I think anytime that he goes somewhere on a visit, and, we saw it with Nebraska when Dylan came to Nebraska during the dead period. We saw it with Georgia when Dylan went and watched Georgia play in the national championship game at SoFi Stadium in LA, that generally when he sees a team, he's going to say good things about that team, that school, that city. And, that can be interpreted to mean that maybe that program leads for him. I have not talked to the Raiolas since, or anybody connected to them since that they went to LA last week. I know that he's training in Los Angeles at the 3D QB program, and part of his plan all along has been to get an opportunity to see USC and see Lincoln Riley again when he goes and makes those trips. Now, I mean, it's USC is very much a factor in this. There's no doubt about that. I will say the thing to watch with USC as it compares to Nebraska and perhaps Georgia, although Georgia is going to have players at every position no matter what, whether they're on the roster or right now, they're going to be there, is that USC recruited a 5-star quarterback in this 2023 class. And he's going to sit and watch behind, that's Malachi Nelson. He's going to sit and watch behind Caleb Williams here in 2023, the returning Heisman Trophy winner. So I don't think the competition necessarily would scare Dylan Raiola away, but I do also think that there's going to be some thought put into his decision about wanting to come somewhere where he has a great opportunity to be the guy. Mm-hmm. And that would be more difficult, of course, at USC than it would be at Nebraska. Now, there are advantages that USC has that Nebraska cannot match. There's not going to be a beach. It's not going to be 70 degrees, 80 degrees every day in Lincoln, Nebraska. You're probably not going to be playing for a national championship in 2024 if you come to Nebraska. You might be at USC. But I think a lot of that had to do simply with the fact that he had just been to USC, when some of those interviews were conducted with the recruiting sites. And, his excitement was real, and it was easy to understand.
All I'll say is if he doesn't see beaches and warm weather in Lincoln, he's clearly never been to Holmes Lake on a day in June. It's beautiful out there.
Okay. Yeah. There are options. You're right, Elijah.
Mitch is going to hang up now. Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, safe travels. Have a great flight. We might see you for Gretna Southeast on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll be there Wednesday night at PBA, tomorrow night. So getting back in time for that. I'm going to go make sure that I don't get accosted in this airport for everything that I've done in the last 15 minutes.
All right. Be good. Let us know if you need bail. All right. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks to Mitch Sherman. That was video streamed, and we got to see Mitch walk and talk because some crusty Texan, my words, told him he was being too loud.
If I'm Mitch, live radio right there.
If I'm Mitch, I just politely say, do you know that I know karate?
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to work out well.
I know karate. And him being in Texas, he's probably got 7 guns on him. He's going to pull one.
Not in an airport.
Oh.
Not in an airport. You're
that's
safe.
Good. Oh, that is right.
No weapons.
Coach Switzer learned the hard way about that one.
The only weapons you can bring into an airport are your 2 fists. So it's good to know.
There we go. Wondering. So I asked Mitch, like, who the hell was bothering you? I texted him. And he's like, I don't know. The guy just snuck up behind me. There was a picture of him on the laptop. And he leaned into my ear. Oh, you're being too loud. I don't know that. I thought it was a nice, subtle tone.
You could hear it briefly in the background. It was just like, you're talking too loud.
People do video conferencing in airports all the time. But Mitch doesn't know the identity. And Mitch will not get into any sort of hairy situation. Bless his heart.
He's a better man than me.
Oh, completely.
I'm setting the phone down in the interview and solving that issue.
Fellas, hang on a minute. I got to handle something.
You hear the sounds of a scuffle in the background.
The problem is Elijah gets up and you're giving up 3 inches and about 5 inches of length when it comes to your wingspan to the dude. I don't know, man. I mean, airports are a nightmare half the time anyway. They just are. And then you get this situation. Good for Mitch. Matt chimes in about Texas recruiting. Excited to read Mitch's story. But you got that Texas pipeline that's opened back up. That's big. More on the barbecue front from Dion. Never eaten barbecue in Kansas City, but Tennessee, in my opinion, is the best I've had in 61 years.
I'm going to throw Memphis into the ring, too.
Never been to Memphis.
Memphis has some good
The dry rub's
barbecue.
good. Like Memphis dry rub that you can get at the store.
The Memphis mop sauce. I tell you what, I had gas station barbecue just outside of Memphis one time, and it's probably the best barbecue I've ever had in my life.
That's where a lot of the barbecue joints started out, in the back of a gas station.
And I had one of them. It was just south of Memphis. I think it may have been across the Tennessee state line into Mississippi at that point, actually. But some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my life was at that gas station.
Listen, with barbecue, it is about your baby backs or your St. Louis style. Sauce is good. Sauce is important. But it can't be the show, in my humble opinion. I love the dry rub. You use the mustard. You use it to bind. Short ribs are my favorite. You throw those on the smoker. I almost like those better. I'm awful at brisket. Uncle Andy's great at brisket. And away we go. My wings are pretty stellar on the smoker. And my ribs are... I won't say undefeated, but they've got a good record.
To get me a pork butt, I'll make me up some pulled pork. That is that's the one for me. Where I got a couple different pulled pork recipes. I would put my pulled pork up against just about anybody, and it's an easy one to do. I can admit that pulled pork isn't hard to do on the smoker, but I do it very, very well. My brisket turned out all right, but I'm just not a huge brisket guy in general.
Let's hit NFL for 2 seconds. We will get back to Nebraska basketball with Andy Markowski here at 20 past 5. We'll have open phones and a segment to discuss Nebraska and Dylan Raiola. That topic actually made the Athletics recruiting mailbag. So we'll get into that here in about 15 minutes or so. NFL news, you've got some movers and shakers post-combine with Todd McShay. It sounds like the Bears are going to move down twice. They will drop to number 7. They'll trade with Indy down to 4, and then they'll trade with the Raiders 4 for 7 and try and stockpile quite a few first-round picks. Sounds like Vegas wants to trade up to go get Anthony Richardson.
That's interesting.
It sounds like the Colts want to move up, go get Bryce Young. Texans will be happy with Stroud at 2, Will Anderson at 3, Will Levis at 9 to Carolina. And – I guess my question is this, as we stick with the NFL, Do you see Trey Palmer moving up? Do you see Trey Palmer in his 4.33 40 moving beyond the 5th round?
You mean higher than the 5th round?
Yeah.
I think that's almost a guarantee at this point.
I understand that, but him running the best time, Kevin emails in, Pepe's Tacos are the way to go. Those look incredible. Man, I got to get to Texas. Never thought I'd say that out loud, but I do. It looks great.
But with Trey Palmer, I look at that, and now that his 40 time matches what you've seen on film, he is still a certified deep threat. And I'm going to still say what I said last week when we were talking about Trey Palmer ahead of the combine, and that's that he needs to find the right system for him to go into, a type of ready-made offense where, you know what, they don't need a do-it-all wide receiver. They need a guy who can take the top off the defense and do this one specific role and let him work on some other things. But another team that I didn't bring up that I really look as being interesting in the 2nd or 3rd round, and we'll see, team needs are obviously going to be huge. How about Cincinnati? Zach Taylor's had a good time picking Huskers. He did well with Cam Taylor-Britt last year, former Husker himself. He's got a former teammate in Jamar Chase for Trey Palmer. The Bengals are a really intriguing option for a guy like Trey Palmer, who, you know what, they have some
Do you think they move Boyd?
Guys.
Because that's the discussion point right now is, does Boyd leave? The first wideout that's supposed to go in this year's NFL draft is Quentin Johnston from TCU. Mm-hmm. He finished 2nd to Palmer in running the 40. New England needs a wideout, and Johnson's size is the difference. Trey's about 6'1". You have Johnston at 6'3", 210. So 15th overall. This is all quarterbacks, linemen, edge, and offensive tackles before you get to pick 14. Other wideouts in this first round.
I think
Jordan Addison goes, they say, to the Chargers 21st. Jordan Addison's great. Then you have Smith and Jigba, Mr. Slot wideout, who's just incredible.
And I think those are both guys. I was going to bring up the Jackson Smith and Jigma conversation, as well as Addison. Both guys that I think are being way overanalyzed at this point of the draft. People are really concerned at Jordan Addison's 40 time at the combine. Whereas I turn him on film and I go, his speeds never look like to be a problem to me on film.
He gets in and out of his breaks. Zay Flowers from Boston College is 5'9". They got him going 25th overall. With Trey's upside, I guess the thing that could hurt him here is he could last a lot longer, right? He could last longer, and then you can just go get needs before wants. But I look at Palmer, and I'm like, okay, is Palmer really a less of a draft pick than Zay Flowers, say, out of Boston College? I don't know. Smith and Jigba's dominant when he's healthy. Jordan Addison's dominant, but Trey's probably worked his way into probably a top 7 NFL option here at wide receiver based on what he did in the combine.
The wide receivers are just deep this year.
They are.
Not a lot of, not great top end. There's not like one guy, I think, but I think it's very deep.
A lot of options. We'll wind down hour 1. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, 25 past. Next hour, it's Andy Markowski. We'll dive into Nebraska's chances here in Chicago to continue making noise. The NIT, the NCAA. Do not laugh. March is magic. We shall see just how far the Nebraska Cornhuskers can keep on rocking. Good stuff from Fred Hoiberg. Congrats to Derek Walker. We hit on that earlier. Some thoughts on Trey Palmer and where he can climb here post-combine. And Mitch Sherman joined us from Dallas-Fort Worth as he's been doing some recon on Nebraska and recruiting and just the connections Rhule made down in Texas. More to come with Mitch on that, I'm sure, with The Athletic. Can join us at 489-1240, 489-1240. And a reminder about your friends at Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. We're presented by Currency. And how about personal injury? Have you been in an injury accident? Have you been hurt? You can count on Dyer Law and their team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. Call Dyer Law, the team today, at 402 888-393-7529 or visit Dyer Law to chat with a trusted professional about your personal injury claim. That's Dyer, D-Y-E-R, Law. Dyer.law is where you go. Dyer.law if you've been injured in an accident. So can email the show, chris@hailvarsity.com. We're getting more taco and food truck pictures in from the state of Texas. We were talking barbecue. You were talking tacos. Mitch has hammered some good eating spots. But, yes, it's a work trip for Mitch. That's interesting to kind of wrestle with the who's got the heavyweight title belt for barbecue and tacos. Do you do tacos at home usually or no?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know, you and I both like the street tacos. I just actually went to a little street taco place in Vegas. Not good street tacos, and they charged me like $25 for 3. It was a terrible deal. That's Vegas for you.
Was that you out of the casino saying, already set it on fire, what's 25 more bucks?
No, this was lunch. This was lunchtime. I was just hungry, and there's a little street taco place outside. I think I should have gone and found a food truck, but tacos at home, I like it. The thing is
do you ever go turkey tacos?
No.
Ooh, look at you.
No.
Look at you pulling the Carson Schmidt no face.
I do turkey with my spaghetti. When I'm doing spaghetti...
Don't give me any lip about turkey.
No.
Dude.
No, the thing is...
You go with pork and beef if you're making a meatball with spaghetti. You don't go turkey with spaghetti.
I don't do a turkey meatball. That'd be wrong. I grind the ground turkey. You do it like you're doing ground beef. You add some like Italian seasonings in there, get it tasting right. And then you just pour your sauce on top, and it's going to taste like the sauce anyway. That's the way to go, because you can get like the 7% lean turkey, and it tastes just like 80-20 ground beef. You won't even tell the difference. That's the time when I'm going to use ground turkey.
The turkey taco's decent.
Never tried it.
Okay. Not bad, because we're talking spices anyway, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Right. There's enough spice to that thing. You get a little jalapeno. It's got to take care of it anyway.
Okay, that's good to know.
I've been roped into to Mexican for dinner tonight, apparently.
You have to make it, or you're just going to pick something up on the way home?
I'm going to meet her.
Okay.
She is going to actually try driving for the first time in a month.
Oh, since the
eye issue. Hour 2, recruiting thoughts. Dylan Raiola, next.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for hanging out. Hour 2, it's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And coming up here in 15 minutes or so, Andy Markowski will be with us, get his take on Big Red Basketball as they take to Chicago. We take to PBA tomorrow as we'll have the 3:15 game here locally. And that is West Side and Lincoln East. We'll be on the radio for that here locally being Lincoln. And then the 7:45 game with Southeast and Gretna. Tomorrow night, all your high school coverage here in Lincoln can find out our Lincoln stations and check that out if you like. Husker baseball doing their thing. They have made the extra point. It is 7-0. Our dear beloved Connor Clark is doing his thing, working on his highlight calls because Nebraska, Elijah's provided quite a few as they've jumped out on Northern Colorado and former Nebraska coach Mike Anderson. So Husker baseball alive and well. Game 1 of 2 against Northern Colorado.
And let's give some credit to Connor Clark here really fast. I threw up a tweet about it, but Connor Clark is still in college, has another year of college left after this, 21 years old, and he already sounds better than a lot of professionals I have heard calling not only Husker baseball games this year, but just college baseball games in general. Connor is killing it over on BTN Plus right now. So if you're a Husker baseball fan, enjoy the highlights for tonight, because they're few and far between having a college kid that's that good at play-by-play.
Connor is such a gentleman where he's like, guys, can I do the game Tuesday? Like, yeah, dude, go do Nebraska baseball. We love having you on the show, but go do baseball.
No, but for our sake, please go do baseball.
Yeah,
for me going back and watching the highlights later, please go do baseball.
Yeah, you're fine. Go do baseball. So let's spend a minute here on the quarterback position and Nebraska. Not to wear you out with Dylan Raiola. Dylan, watch. But Coach Rhule was asked about it yesterday. His answer about the process, the layout of going after a high-profile quarterback in 2024, without naming any names, because you can't. You get in trouble with it. But here is Coach Rhule. Coach Rhule spent some time on just what he looks for, not only in a quarterback, but what it takes to be a guy that will fit here. And here's that. That will take us to Ari Wasserman from The Athletic and his recruiting mailbag. So we'll dive into what some of the national folks are saying. We've beat it up locally quite a bit post-visit. What are the Raiolas saying? How are things looking for Big Red football with Raiola? Well, nationally, it's on the radar. It's very real. And that's wowing some of the national analysts. Here's Rhule, though, with his approach.
I would say, in general, I always want every student athlete that I recruit to come because they want to come for the right reasons at the right time. And I don't get caught up in I need this guy to get this guy. That's not me. This is my vision for you. 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 This is our process, and lay it out. I miss the best success I've had is the old way of recruiting, where I saw a kid in his senior year and had a chance to watch him. So it gets earlier and earlier and earlier. It's not really my way of doing things, but I'm modern me. I got to keep up with the times. So I just don't. I don't want anyone coming because they feel like they have to come, and at the same time, I also don't want to sacrifice other things. So I don't worry too much about it. Like, to me, this is each young person's journey, and I want them to do it for the right reasons and come here for the right reasons. So that level of strategy to me it's really more about the thing. I'm going to be here for how I say this. It's never about who we don't get. It's always about who we get. Does that make sense? It's never about who we don't take. It's always about who we take. And so I want to make sure that guys that we take, whether we take 10, 15, 20, 25 next year, that we take them all, the right guys for the right reasons that want to be here. That, to me, when you're really transparent, I want people to come watch us practice. I don't know how you could commit to play for me without watching me at a Matt Rhule or at a practice, because I am who I am. I'm not changing on the field for anybody. And Terrence Knighton's not changing for anybody. And so I want people to see it, because some people will love it, right? Some people will be like, wow, they're going to maximize me. Some people, they want a different vibe. And so I want them to see it, know it. And so I think, hopefully we have a really good recruiting class. Hopefully it goes through this year, goes through the spring. But I think people would be smart to come watch us practice and figure out if this is the right place for them.
That is so healthy. It's not defeatist. We're going to get who we're going to get. And that's not negative. There's been a certain reality to that. Go kill it within the 500-mile radius. That's very healthy. If you're going to go take a shot, like Mickey was talking about on the coast for a wideout, you were going to go get a draft pick. They're going to jack around and take a fourth choice that could or maybe pan out versus taking someone closer to home. But with Coach Rhule there, this is either for you or it's not, and it's going to be real clear real soon, the demand level. And there's other places where you can probably get away with doing less. That's not here. Is it for you or not? Come check out a practice. Are we too intense? Do we have fun? Do we win? Don't know yet. But all those things are laid out there. The transparency portion of this equation for Nebraska football in the Rhule era is going to be a reason and the difference between success and failure. And transparency is awesome to talk about, hard to do, to get through to kids. It's not like you're hiding anything, but are you relying on your sales pitch and hoping they fall in line in the era of the free transfer? Or are you absolutely, what you see is what you get from the get-go? And, man, I want to be a part of this because they're going to win, or they are winning. And until they got to get off the runway. They got to get into the air. And once you're flying, it'll be all right. I absolutely think so, because maybe a kid's not super intense or isn't as locked into football. They're just good at football. Listen, you've taken flyers on guys in the past like that, and you've seen some wow moments, but have they lasted? No. And you can't really, you're going to have that, but you can't have as much as you've had in the past. So if I'm putting money down right now, I'm hedging my bet. My future says that Matt Rhule is going to get good players. They're going to stick around because they have the right mentality. And he's going to do everything in his power to know who he's bringing in and probably not reach or risk in an inexact science as much as maybe there's been some force moves in the past. Let's reach for a Mo Washington. Guy's awesome when he's right. How often is he right? Are we going to reach on a McCaffrey? Stud athlete, great family, good ball player, catching the football well at Rice. Didn't want to do that here. Okay, what do you do at quarterback after an Adrian Martinez? All right, can we grow a guy like Adrian Martinez with what we have at quarterback coach? Well, his freshman year was great, and then he was injury prone, and then he had people breathing down his neck and didn't have a great supporting cast. Do we have a running back that can come in and stay in the program? You hope that what's in the stable now can stay and do well. Otherwise, you're reaching for JUCO or portal. Okay, there's been a lot of ills with Nebraska football. But from a recruiting standpoint, Elijah, I think what you see is what you get. It's pretty genuine. And it's either for you or it's not. And if it's not for you, all good.
And that last point that you just made really reminds me of the recruiting style of Bo Pelini whenever he was at Nebraska. Either it's for you or it's not. I have my coaching style, is what Bo Pelini would say. And either you respond to that or you don't. And I think of that Taylor Martinez situation on the sideline where he's getting yelled at the Texas A&M game, and everyone was watching that on TV saying, wow, how is he treating his quarterback like that? Well, simply put, that program was either for you or it wasn't for you. And you know what we got?
And you know it going in.
You know what we got the rest of the year from Taylor Martinez? A better Taylor Martinez, because he responded to that style of coaching. You could say the same for a guy like Rex Burkhead. I mean, we've heard the recruiting story on Will Compton, where the coaching staff is going in, I believe it was Coach Eckler, and he's got a fake airbrush tattoo on his arm that says Compton on it.
The old English C.
Yes, yeah, and whenever you hear that, you just go, from what I know about Will Compton, his social media presence, his appearances on Bussin' with the Boys, that's going to resound with him. That coaching staff didn't change who they were to go change Will Compton, but they found a match, and they found a good football player that was going to match up with the personalities and the coaching styles of the guys on that coaching staff. And that's what I think Matt Rhule is getting at here, is saying, you know what, there's going to be talented football players out there that aren't for us, and there's going to be lesser guys that we can get the most out of because they are for us, and we need to just stay in our lane and find the guys that are going to resound with us. You know what? If you're a great football player, but you come watch practice and you say, that's not my motivation style, how you guys are motivating your players, fine, Matt Rhule saying, go somewhere else, because that's going to help you in the long run, as you mentioned, in the era of the transfer portal. Getting guys to stick and stay, it's all about finding that match for you. It's going to be a lot more likely that a guy is going to be willing to sit for 2 or 3 years behind some other guys and develop if they have that connection with the coaching staff and know, you know what, from what I've seen on my recruiting visits, this coaching staff is the coaching staff that's going to get the most out of me. I know myself, and this coaching staff seems to know me. I'm going to be willing to sit. Whenever you're sitting behind a guy and you're looking at your coaching staff saying, man, I had some recruiting visits across the country that I liked a lot, and I thought I had a great chance to play early here. That's why I came here. But now I'm sitting here developing third string on the depth chart, and I'm thinking of all these other schools I went and visited that I thought I may have connected with a little bit better on the coaching staff, and you're going to enter your name into the transfer portal. I think what Matt Rhule said in that 2-minute long answer is really, really important just as we move forward in the transfer portal area to find guys that connect with the coaching staff rather than in a football sense, but in a personal sense.
You're trying, versus the other way around where you're trying to connect with a recruit just to get him wooed in here and hope it hits. Take it into your own hands with the reality. The fairy tale part versus the nightmare part, right? The visit versus day one of fall camp. Why am I not playing? Well, you're 70 pounds overweight, you're out of shape, and you're not ready. You're 18. That guy's 22, and he's killing you in one-on-ones. You're not ready. And this staff will probably say that. The mentality match is going to be profiled, examined, and before they move forward with an offer. They may love a kid's track speed. They may love a kid's physical gifts. But they're going to do 1,000-foot deep dive with the high school coach, the counselor. They're going to profile the hell out of who they're bringing in so they're not screwing up or missing.
And we talked about this.
And you're going to miss and you're going to screw up, but they're going to do everything in their power with the legwork before they waste time.
And we talked about this last year. It's a different sport, but we were talking about Purdue basketball, what they've built under Matt Painter, where every single time when they're recruiting a kid, they have them fill out a pretty in-depth questionnaire about what their personality is like, questions that kind of indicate if you're going to be a personality match for this program. And if a guy's not a personality match, it doesn't matter how good they are at basketball. They say, you know what, you're not going to be a guy for us. Matt Painter has laid out that in his recruiting process, and you've seen the results that have come from Purdue basketball. They have a system that works. They have guys that play together, and you know what? They're going to be, assuming things go well for them in the Big Ten tournament, probably a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament because of what Matt Painter has built, and it just shows how important that personality and that connection factor is whenever you look at building a team.
Here's the thing. I'm going to relate it to alcohol.
Oh.
Okay? Matt Rhule's a guy that can order a vodka tonic or a James Bond martini. He can drink that with a booster and have that palate. Matt Rhule's a guy that can ask for a Busch Latte or a Bud Heavy or a bourbon, and he can do it all. But what he wants, I think, he doesn't want the guys that like the martinis. Martinis are good. There's a time and a place for them. He wants the Bud Diesel guys. He wants the crappy Budweiser's good beer, but I'm saying he wants the beer drinkers, the tough guys. Okay.
Well, I get what you're saying. You're not going to the.
It's not fluff.
Well,
this isn't patty cake.
You're not going to the bar to have these really nice drinks. You're going to the bar to go spend time with friends. It's kind of the same thing in a football program. You're not going to a football program for the bells and the whistles. You're going to be a part of a football team, and everything on top of that is just a plus.
Right.
Like whenever you pick a cheap bar, you're going because of the company that you're going to have there.
Yes.
You don't look at the drinks.
Let's go have a good time. You nailed it. And it's a company. So
yeah, I'm not going to lie. You had me lost in the first half a little bit, but once you brought your argument together, I see exactly what you're saying, and it's a great point.
It's the type of drinks they're going to order, but it's where they're going, right? And it's that camaraderie that he's trying to build here. Last thought here, this is going to come down, and this is part of the mailbag with Dylan Raiola and Ari Wasserman. It's going to come down to sales pitch. And you heard Coach Rhule's pitch pretty much. It wasn't even a pitch, but it was his outline of going after a high-profile quarterback or a high-profile kid. They're not going to shy away from it. They're going to go after it and just see if it fits. But right now, with the momentum USC has, it is just two different spots right now. And Mitch nailed it. USC could be playing for a national title before they head to the Big Ten. They could. We're talking 2 number 1 picks overall in the last 5 years. It's been tutored by Lincoln Riley. 3 Heismans. They were down last year and still went 11-3. Versus Nebraska, where, dude, you got to build a winner, but you're going to be a key component of that. You want to be a star or the star.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. We welcome in the pride of Ord, Husker basketball standout, assistant coach Andy Markowski with us. So, Andy, you're doing a bit of traveling, brother. Tell folks where the Andy Markowski tour is at.
Yeah, well, I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. We have our orthopedic convention this week, so I was have a chance to watch a little basketball, but it's mostly work. And then hopping on a plane, heading back home, and catching some of the high school state tournament going into the weekend.
I got to ask you, since you're in Vegas, where do you rank Tark's last title team with Larry Johnson and Augman and Everett Gray and Anderson Hunt? Where do you rank that squad as far as like favorite champions?
As like the highest paid or the
we could do that too. I remember the Sports Illustrated hot tub photo.
Yeah,
I do.
I had a lot of fun watching that group. Certainly, Duke upsetting them and then, them coming back the next year and winning, or the year before. That was a fun group, but, the amoeba trapping defense. I mean, Larry Johnson went on to have a good NBA career. But a great Tark story. I don't know if people know this, but Tark took over at Fresno State. And we in 96, when we won the NIT, we had to go through Fresno, and, Tark had kind of turned that around. They were really talented, had Chris Herron, which everybody has probably seen the 30 and 30 documentary on his life. Right. But I'll never forget it. We're out there warming up probably 7-8 minutes before tip, and all the lights go out, and that is pretty early for people to be doing that. And we turn around, and all the players are coming out of the stands, kind of through the concourse and then down onto the court. And it was, it felt like he had turned it into the Vegas, fight night type atmosphere. And they proceeded to have us down 26, I think 7 or 9. And then Strickland just went crazy, and we won the game. So a fun Tark story, but he was chewing on his towel, and then the guys went over and got his autograph, and Chester Searles actually got the towel that he had been chewing on the whole game. I don't know if that's a prized possession or not, but anyway, kind of a cool Tark story. It was, he was legendary in my eyes. So the chance to play against him was a fun way to kind of have your college career go.
I got to meet him in the John of all places. On the 6th floor at Memorial Stadium. He was back for Derek Carr and Fresno State. This is, I think, Amir's freshman year in 2011.
Yeah.
Where he was back. Doc had him back because him and Doc were close. And
yeah, awesome. No, he was very kind to us. It was after the game, too. He didn't have to stay there and talk to us. So, legendary coaching figure for sure.
Andy Markowski's with us. Andy, let's talk Big Red hoops before we talk some high school basketball. And the Big Red, this is weird to say, can they play their way beyond an NIT bubble? Can they play their way to an NCAA bubble short of winning it? I know, eat what's on your plate first. Minnesota's been uneasy wins, but hey, what a job in Iowa City by the Big Red, and then now they head to Chicago.
Yeah, just a great finish to the season. So to answer your question, you look at the path to get, into Saturday or Sunday into the Big Ten. I mean, you're going to have to, it's almost like an NCAA tournament is starting for them, right? So if you happen to play your way, through Saturday into Sunday, with the last month that you've had, you have to have some metrics that would look pretty impressive to the committee, whether that's enough or not. A lot of it will depend on the mid-major leagues and, any bid stillers that are out there. But, if you, I think they should beat Minnesota. But, once again, our margin is still pretty small to beat anybody. Minnesota, appears to still be playing hard and, had a game-winning shot the other night to kind of keep, their energy level up. But, I like our draw. I don't think Maryland overpowers us offensively. I think, we can match if we can rebound there. And then, Indiana's, I thought we played them tough up there early. We're playing much better now. So, if you run into Saturday or Sunday, you should be, at least mentioned as an NCAA tournament team. But, a month ago, I don't think the NIT was, realistically, we talked about that being their ceiling. I don't think anybody believed that, so the fact that they still have played themselves into a middle seed in the NIT has been a great finish to the year.
Yeah, Andy, I saw yesterday that Nebraska's quote-unquote NIT bracketology had them as a 4 seed in the NIT hosting Villanova. And obviously a lot of that can change, but how does that matchup strike you in the NIT? You're on a team that won the NIT and saw the benefits of going and playing the NIT. So I want to get your take on what that could mean for the Big Red.
Well, yeah, that's such a crapshoot, right, on seeding. The odds that we play Villanova is probably slim. But I guess the way I look at the NIT is, playing at home would be great, right? Our attendance has been good, and those 4 and 5 games are probably tilted to the place that's going to put more fans in the seats, right? I mean, it's still a business. So, hopefully we can be in that 3-4 line. But the NIT comes down to this. Do you want to be there or not? Nova would be a team that I think would want, even though that's not a great season for them. They've got a new coach. They got some players back late in the year. I'm sure they're disappointed not being in the NCAA, but I still think that team would be hungry to play. You want to catch the teams that, might have been to the tournament for 3 years in a row with a bunch of seniors that are highly disappointed, kind of want the year to be done, want to get on spring break. So a lot of the NIT seeding isn't who the team was during the season. It's who the hell still wants to play. And, I've been on both sides of that. I've been on teams that wanted to pack it in and hit spring break. And then, 96 was just a group that, felt like they had a little bit to prove, and we ran through the thing and won it. So, I think the state of mind is probably the most important factor as you're looking at NIT seeds and who has a chance to win.
One of the juicy storylines is in the NIT is not only a chance to maybe get to host a team like Villanova of that pedigree, but did I see down the road that San Jose State could be a future or could be a potential matchup for Nebraska with old Timmy Miles with the job he's done in the Mountain West? How nuts would that be if, God forbid, he gets to come back into PBA?
Yeah, no, Tim was back at Christmas. I had a chance to connect and have a beer. And I'm actually, I was going to go watch them tomorrow. I thought they would be in the 6-7 seed, and then they played themselves into a bye, and they're actually playing Nevada in the afternoon of Thursday. So it's a little hard for me to get over the Thomas Mack. But I told him I was going to be in town, and, Tim, as gracious as ever, was, tickets or whatever we needed to watch it. So great season. I mean, one of the best in San Jose history. And for Tim to do that in year 2, speaks to, his ability to rebuild the program. And, I think if you would have given Tim the NIL rules and some of the transfer stuff that has changed, my biggest concern when he was at Nebraska is could he recruit the caliber of kid needed to win in that league. Now that you can legally pay kids money and the stuff that had gone on for forever, I think he, will find his way back into BCS and probably have a chance to rebuild a BCS program with the new NIL rules.
Do you think that Coach Miles would get a warm welcome in Lincoln? Should he come back to Lincoln? Because I remember I loved Tim Miles whenever he was at Nebraska, and I don't think that Husker Nation differs all that much in their opinion of him. So do you think he'd get a warm welcome back to PBA?
I do. I think Tim left the right way, on his way out. He was going to go have a cold Coors Light. So there's now beer at PBA. So he, Tim was, he just didn't win enough, right? I mean, he did a good job. I thought his energy was good, but, at the time just didn't win enough. But I think he's still well respected. His family is still in Lincoln. Tim's kept a lot of contacts, in the community. So I do think it would be a little like, the Doc Sadler situation. I don't think there's a lot of ill will with either of those coaches, leaving. I think people respect them, and certainly Tim left the right way. And, it'd be an exciting, fun game, and fans would certainly be interested in coming down and supporting a game with a common coach. Obviously, San Jose wouldn't be a common opponent. So that would be a fun NIT matchup. But they're playing well. I watched them on TV a couple weeks ago. Amari Moore is, I think it's Amari Moore, but player of the year in the league. So it'd be a fun matchup. But who knows? Like you said, there's 32 teams, so to get cross matched like that, would take a lot of luck, I think.
Craig Smith in Utah, depending on if they go on a run or not. I know they've been over 500, but not where they need to be for the Pac-12, and that's also a potential opponent that's out there. I want to ask you one more thought on Coach Miles before we talk Derek Walker and his accolades. Is the smoke real in your opinion with some of the openings around the Pac-12? And I'm asking about Cal. And I know there's not been a ton of carousel movement yet, but is Tim and Cal something that could work? I mean, just down the road and I'm not trying to run him out of San Jose State already, but we're talking Power 5 versus, Mountain West.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't speak to what Tim is looking for. I see Tim trying to get back into more of the Big 10, Big 12 range. I think that's probably where his relationships and strengths are. I think Cal Berkeley is probably a unique setting and unique job. I don't know if the Pac-12 is super stable with UCLA and USC, leaving now. The talk is that, the Oregons might have to join the Big 12. So I think there's probably other jobs that would fit better that Tim would probably sit tight if that was the only opportunity he had this year. But, he's, one at a tough place to win. And, I think that's probably on a lot of AD's radar.
Andy Markowski is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Andy, what's your reaction to Derek Walker? Second team All Big Ten. Coaches gave him that nod today. He has been just incredible, almost a triple-double Sunday, but he has been a barometer that's had to bring it every ball game, and he has.
Yeah, terrific, right? I mean, if 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you would have anticipated him averaging 4 or 5 assists and being able to score at will in the middle of the floor. I don't know if I saw that. There's talk that he didn't really want to maybe stay and play this last year, right? He's 24 years old. And, I think it's a credit to Derek. He got off to a, rough start, right? Having to sit 6 games for whatever reason there. But it's also a little bit of testament to Fred finding, the best way to utilize kind of the pieces, right? I think he finally found what Derek could do well and really was able to kind of feature his skill set, and Derek took advantage of that and, at times really carried that offense. And you don't see, you see Zach Edey doing that at Purdue as a 5, where you just go post up, you're just bigger and stronger than everybody, you throw them the ball. But the fact that Walker was able to kind of run offense and be the catalyst for everything that we did offensively as a 5 is pretty rare. You just, other than Jokic at the Nuggets, I mean, you start looking around, the country at 5-man, post players that are doing the things that, now I'm not saying he's Nikola Jokic, but, a similar player, right? It's just, you're running offense, you're running sets, he's getting other players' shots. So, I'm glad to see he was recognized, because I think the coaches in the league are going to be happy to have him graduate, because they've had a real hard time, finding ways to guard him.
Do you think Derek Walker gets a shot in the NBA or the G League? I mean, the two factors you have to look at there are height and age. And the NBA usually likes taller guys, usually like younger guys. But do you think he gets a chance after the season ends to go show what he's got, at least in the G League?
Yeah, I don't know how well, he's 6'9", he's a little bigger than me, right? Which, in the NBA, that's not, I mean, there's 2s and 3s right now at that length. He doesn't shoot it. If he could face and shoot a 17, 18, 19 footer, I think that would give him a chance to play professionally at that level. The fact that he really can't, everything is kind of off the dribble at the rim. I just don't believe he's going to be big enough. And he scored over, big college players, but the NBA is another, level of length and size at the rim. So you'll never say never, but, I think with his inability to score outside of 15 feet would really limit his ability of how teams could use him and how productive he could be in the NBA.
Husker standout Andy Markowski with us, talking college basketball, Big Red basketball. Hail Varsity Radio. Andy, you are in Vegas. Is there a futures wager you're going to put down on somebody for the NCAA tournament? Does these 4 teams sound right for the 1 seed, KU, Bama, Purdue, UCLA?
Well, I was reviewing the bracket, and I think it is wide open. I mean, you look at the ACC that, potentially has their winner as the 4 and 5 seed. I like Arizona. I think those 2 posts are going to be a handful. in the tournament. Having 2 posts that can survive foul trouble. You look at Purdue. I've seen them on the 1 and 2 line. I don't know. Arizona. I watched Gonzaga a little bit last night. I mean, they're terrific. Have pro players. I've always told myself and tell people, I think you need 3 NBA players to win a national title. So as you start looking at rosters, who has 3 NBA caliber players. I mean, I would kind of start there. But with COVID and the players getting the extra year, I've never seen the depth from 1 to 20 where you start going at the 3s and the 4 seeds going, shoot, they would have a chain. You look at a Baylor and, teams that have been ranked in the top 3 or 4 are going to show up on the 3 and 4 line going in the tournament. So, if I was going to take a flyer, and I don't even know how big of a flyer it would be, I'd probably bet Arizona.
I love watching UCLA, and I just like the skill set and what Mick has there, but I like the Mick Cronin toughness to Westwood. I think that combination is great. I know they're about 3 years removed from a Final Four, but he's got a lot of those kids back, specifically Tiger running this point and Vasquez. So I just cards on the table. I like UCLA. That's not a shocker. We'll see. Arizona's a good take. Bama, they have withstood a just awful hailstorm of media with all the crap that's gone on with them. And they haven't seemed to blink yet. I mean, they are super athletic and physical as well.
Yeah, their length. I mean, you put them on TV and they spread out on the defensive end. And you wonder how anybody gets a basket against them. But they're consistently shooting the ball. Scares me a little bit. Over the course of having to win 6 games, there's games that they just do not make perimeter jump shots. So I think that catches up to you at some point where you can get upset. I think the Big East is interesting. UConn, with their Postanago gives them a fighting chance against anybody in the country. I look at Marquette defensively. They're as sticky as any team, I've seen. I haven't watched everybody a bunch, but, I had a chance to watch a few Big East games. I think that league is probably a little better than what people think, and you're going to see those teams on kind of that 3-4. Creighton's probably going to be a 5-ish. Any of those teams could make a run, but I think you got to shoot it. You got to defend, and going back to my point, I do think to win 6 in a row, you got to have 3 NBA caliber talents that can carry you maybe in a tough game where you got to go get a basket late.
Andy, we'll get you out on this. Thanks for the time and joining us here. Andy Markowski, Hail Varsity Radio, college basketball thoughts. And now high school hoops, you'll be with Eddie T and Larry Putney this weekend for Championship Saturday, another Championship Saturday with Andy and Larry. That's going to be awesome. We'll be down there doing our radio call of things. And what a fun year it's been in Class A for boys, specifically the reemergence of some of the Lincoln teams.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, all you could have justified a few of the other Pius teams getting in, right? I mean, I thought the districts were hard, but the fact that we have multiple, Lincoln teams in, I think they like their draw. I mean, Southeast and North Star both have been competitive against the teams they're playing, and Lincoln East certainly is was probably the most consistent team of in the Lincoln group. So, I want to say A is going to be fun to watch because having that Lincoln flavor is going to be great, but I don't know if anybody can really challenge Bellevue West. So you hope maybe Bellevue West plays poor, maybe one of those teams can upset them. But I think the other first round games, I think are going to be very, very competitive, and it'd be fun to see a Lincoln team advance because we just have not been as competitive in boys basketball as the Omaha and Metro schools have been over the last 20 years.
Andy Markowski with us. Andy, enjoy Vegas. We'll see you this weekend. Thanks for a few minutes, bud.
All right, guys. March Madness is here. Enjoy it.
Good to get caught up with Andy Markowski. The Connor Clark effect is real at C_Clark_. 27. Nebraska is up 12-1. It's pinata time.
With 3 400-foot home runs already in the game today. So the bats are hot.
They are they're doing well. We'll wind down a busy Tuesday. Mitch Sherman, Andy Markowski, get those podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Download the whole show or just watch it when you want with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Final thoughts when we come back.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity, we're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency locally here. KFOR, we are all over state basketball starting tomorrow. Jeff Moats at 1:30 with North Star. All have the 3:15 with Coach Jeff Smith. That is going to be West Side and East, a rematch. East won that first-time matchup in the regular season. Then we'll have the nightcap, and that's Southeast and Gretna. Southeast barely losing on the road at Gretna early on in the year. I think game 2 or 3 of the season. Knights had a great season this year, so lots of Lincoln action. Parkview Christian, the Fighting Garth Glissmans, they are in action trying to win another title. Let's hear from Fred. They head to Chicago. That tip-off is around 8 tomorrow as the Big Red trying to get things rolling. This is Fred about the opportunity in Chicago. It's one game at a time, but, man, they've been hot, and they're trying to carry it forward off of Iowa City.
I mean, this is the fun time of year, and all the work that we've done to this point, going all the way back to June, this is what you prepare for is postseason opportunity. Conference tournaments are a ton of fun, and I've been a part of cutting down nets on a couple different occasions. There's nothing like it. Nobody can take that away from you when you do that, and it's special for your team. I still am close with a lot of the players, that I had the opportunity to cut nets down with, and it's really exciting for your fan base, and it really is the time. Everything's been a grind up to this point. Now the fun starts in the postseason, and we just need to again go out there and focus on the task at hand, not the overall what we need to do. To make the tournament. It's just one game at a time, and hopefully we go out and give ourselves a chance tomorrow.
So that was kind of the theme with every answer to every question, and you want to zoom out and say, hey, can you keep the run going? How far can you guys go? NIT, NCAA, and Fred asked, do you have to win out to be an NCAA tournament team?
I don't think so. I think the biggest thing, we just need to go out and worry about Minnesota right now. And, you go out. I don't know, Sam. I mean, I'm not worried about it. I'm just worried about hopefully going out and competing tomorrow night.
So he's a bit wore out by everything other than Minnesota. Well, I mean, that's consuming him. And if I'm him, they had no business beating Iowa. As good as their offense was and as well as their defense played contesting shots, you get worked on the glass and turn the ball over like you did, you stole one in Iowa City. It was awesome if you're a Nebraska fan, but you don't win that game, usually ever. You can't be going in against Minnesota, not boxing out and playing defense and rebound.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it's almost a message to the team of we're not worried about making the NCAA tournament right now. Our focus is Minnesota. You don't want them to look ahead and say, man, we need to make a run into Saturday or Sunday if we want to go make the dance. I think every single player in the back of their mind already knows it. So as a coach, you want to take that out of the forefront. You want to keep that in the back of the mind and say, you know what? Yeah, it's in the back of the mind. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Right now, our focus is beating Minnesota. And then it's going to be beating Maryland. And if we can get past Maryland, then it's beating Indiana.
Go get Indiana.
You're taking it one game at a time. When you have a 24-hour turnaround with every single one of these games, you can't afford to let your players think too far ahead and think about, well, we need to get to Saturday or Sunday. No, you need to get to tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just survive today and live for tomorrow. Pretty easy to do. We will talk to you from PBA tomorrow, State Tournament 2023 for boys. And we'll have an impromptu Hail Varsity following West Side and East, probably right at 5 o'clock. So tune in that way. And excited to do so and have you along. Big thanks to Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, Mitch Sherman, Andy Markowski. Talk to you from PBA tomorrow with Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.